Hey guys, Luke Colby here from the Russell Moccasin Company. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of boot fit in our lace-up line of boots. We'll be using the backcountry here as a great proxy for the rest of our lace-up models. The first thing that you're going to do once you get it nice and laced down is slide your foot in there and make sure it seats firmly at the bottom of the boot in the heel counter or heel pocket area. The second thing you're going to do is use your fingers and do a nice Pacific Northwest fold to take the excess gusset material and get it right over the top of that instep. You can also do what's called a side tuck, which is tucking the material down there at the sides. As you're lacing up, make sure that those first couple eyelets are nice and snug and that they're not coming loose as you work your way up the ankle. Those first 4 eyelets really comprise the basic fit of a Russell moccasin, pulling your heel into the heel counter and making sure that it's nice and snug around that instep. Russell boots are designed with a wider toe box that allows the foot to splay naturally. This enables better balance and traction in challenging terrains. Once you've finished lacing all the way up, check the instep again to make sure that it's nice and snug, but that it's not pinching anywhere. Wiggle your toes around a little bit and notice where your toe comes up in the toe box. Ideally, this will be between the hand seam and about 3/4 of an inch back from the hand seam. Press down a little bit, see how it fits around your foot. The ball of the foot, the widest part of the foot, should be snug, but it shouldn't be tight. At the front of the boot, push in a little bit and see if you can feel your toe. If you can feel your toe, then it's probably going to be a little bit too short, and when you're walking downhill, it's going to be kind of painful because you're jamming into the end. So those are a couple good things to note first of all. I'm going to go ahead and stick on the right pair here, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about the same things you just saw. One of the things I really like to do when I'm putting on a pair of lace-up Russells is go ahead and clunk my heel down a couple times to make sure my heel is firmly seated in the back of the boot. Once I do that, I make sure that my laces are all the way down, and I go ahead and do my Pacific Northwest fold. Once you've done this a couple times, the boot will start to train the leather into that fold where it does that every single time. Then I start snugging up those laces, and you see how the boot becomes nice and tight around my instep, but you don't see any baggy areas or areas where it's folding up because it's too loose and I'm having to tighten it down too much. I'm checking those laces to make sure that they stay tight on those first 3 or 4 eyelets, and then I'm recentering that fold as I'm going up the ankle. Once you've done that, you're going to want to check the fit around the instep, just like we talked about earlier. It should be nice and snug around the foot, but you should still be able to wiggle your toes and feel that you've got room in the ball of your foot. Where I'm squeezing right there, that instep, the waist of the foot, is where it's designed to be tight on a Russell, because right there, those first 3 or 4 eyelets, that's where it's pulling your heel back into that heel counter around the instep, and that's where a Russell holds on to your foot. You can see that diagonal direction there from the heel counter to those eyelets. When you stand up, you should be able to flex the boot without your heel coming out or moving in that heel pocket area. It's going to be a little bit softer. There's going to be a little bit more movement on a PH model or a boot that does not have a counter, but our hiking boots like the backcountry and the South 40 that have those oak leather heel counters, your heel should not be moving at all. I like to check there on my instep again, make sure it's not too tight. Talking again about the toe length, you can see where I'm pointing is where my toe comes up, and it's somewhere between that 3/4 of an inch length from the hand seam to where I'm pointing. That's a really nice range. If it gets beyond that, it gets a little bit too long. If it's too short from that, you can feel your toe at the end of it. Look down here at the lacing and you can see that it's nice and even all the way down to the bottom. This is a good way to tell if it's the right snugness. And I'm wiggling my toes here again to make sure that I've got enough space to walk, that I'm not feeling too pinched or too hindered in the ball area of the foot. The 77 last, which our shoes are made on, is a little bit more tapered throughout the toe box. That tapered fit gives a little bit more dressy look and allows it to be used with dress socks versus boot socks. Going up the shaft of the boot, you'll notice the eyelets are evenly spaced as opposed to the tighter spacing on the boot, and at the heel, without a counter, it's going to be a little bit more comfortable fit for daily wear. On the inside of the shoe, you'll notice that the gusset or the tongue easily comes out so that your foot can slide into place. And there's no need to fold anything over because the tongue easily sits on top of the foot. As you begin to start lacing, you're going to want to snug down those first 2, 3, 4 laces nicely, just like we did on the boots, to make sure that the instep is hugged in place. And particularly on the Highland Chukka or the Veli, I leave that last eyelet open. I just simply don't need the traction up the leg that last eyelet or lacing stud provides. As I stand up here, what I'm looking for is a nice snug fit around that instep that still allows me to flex naturally from the heel all the way to the toe. I'm feeling there again for any loose spots or places that are too tight, and I'm looking up the shaft of the shoe to make sure that lacing is nice and even, not too close, not too far. And then here at the toe, I'm again looking to see where my toe comes up in the shoe to make sure that it's within that 3/4 inch range of the hand seam that we're typically looking for. The ball of the foot on a shoe is going to be a little bit more snug than the boot that we talked about earlier. The nice thing about this is that over time, as you wear the shoe and it begins to mold to your foot, you'll get that same natural wide feeling at the toe box that's going to fit your foot because most of our shoes are either single vamp or single vamp with a molded sole, and they mold in very easily. One last thing before I go, make sure to try on your boots or shoes with the same socks you plan on using in the field.